Hello and thanks for checking out ChartGuys.com. We're proud to be one of the most successful technical analysis communities online, teaching you the skills to become a more confident, effective, and informed trader. Join our community of hundreds of analysts worldwide working together to learn the charts, generate profit, and achieve financial independence. For access to daily live chart analysis and market coverage, a thriving chat community, along with dozens of hours of exclusive educational materials. We look forward to seeing you. Let's check out some charts. Hello everyone, we're looking at small cap Canadian MJ now, and personally where I stand in the market, I probably am not going to be trading these names. I'm going to be sticking to the major names in Canada or the names in the US, but that doesn't mean to ignore these names because they have higher risk, higher reward than the bigger names in Canada, just in terms of the potential of being bought out or obviously the more significant moves that they do have. So if you are looking for higher risk and higher reward, definitely keep an eye on these names. So here's an example with T-God that I want to talk a little bit about first before we get into the technicals, because I always talk about being on a spectrum of fundamental and technical, and this was an example where knowing the fundamentals of what was going on was essential for the play that presented itself on Friday. And I personally did not know the fundamentals of what was going on with T-God. It's been very clear that it's been weaker than the entire Canadian MJ market, and it now makes sense why when I find out the reasons of what's going on with the company. So they had a significant amount of shares become free trading on Friday, I believe was the exact date that they became free trading. But what you have to remember is that the market is really smart, and when it's a known event, it prices it in. So keep that in mind in every scenario when you're thinking about a stock and you're thinking about news. If it is a known event, it is priced in. Doesn't matter if it's good news or bad news. In this instance, it's bad news being priced in, and it's been being priced in for months while the entire sector saw strength. T-God was pricing in all of these shares being added to the float and increasing supply. So on Friday morning, we were doing the live stream and someone asked me, is this gap down on T-God, is this for buying? And I looked at the chart and said, all-time lows? Nah, that's pretty high risk. I have no interest in buying an all-time low gap down open. That was me not knowing that it was a known event priced in. So how can we see the date roll around and then see huge buying pressure and the bulls showing up all day? Well, the answer is, imagine you had shares becoming free trading on that day. And you have, let's just keep it easy, let's say you have 1,000 shares. So you know that the market knows that those shares are going to become free trading and that we're dropping down significantly. If a couple weeks before those shares become free trading, let's say I short 1,000 shares. So that essentially locks in my price at that point. Let's say I go short 1,000 shares at $6. Any dollar we go down, I am losing $1,000 on my shares that are locked up, and I'm gaining not $1,000, but I'm gaining the same amount of money on my short that is increasing in value as the price drops down. That's essentially locking in the price that I will get for my unlocked shares at that point. Then what we see happen is the shares become unlocked, and on that day, I cover my short. And so on the gap down open, it was a 10% gap down open. I instantly cover my short from $6, and let's say I cover it at $2.60, and now I have long shares that are unlocked and the price is going up. And not only that, me covering my short position helps push the price up. I have to buy back those shares and that price shoots up. Look at the amount of volume that we saw. A very huge day of volume, an all-time high of volume on that gap down open. In my opinion, it's shorts covering and it's bulls buying the dip. And you might be looking at this and saying, I thought the shares become free trading on Friday. What's all this buying going on? And the answer is the market priced it in. This is an exact opposite scenario. When you say buy the rumor and sell the news, like we have seen with votes and with the first day of legalization sales, this is a sell the rumor, buy the news scenario in the exact opposite situation. So we had the gap down open and the bulls very significantly bought. And now I expect that our all-time low is going to be hit for at least the short-term future. And again, the volume is clearly a volume climax. And I would say this is probably the all-time low for easily into 2018 or through 2018 into next year. We certainly need follow through at this point. The 4-hour time frame will need a higher low and a higher high to confirm the trend change, but obviously we cannot disregard that volume. So the hourly time frame right now, we have support down at 327, and then we would be looking at 3 psychological after that. And the bulls just want to hold 327 on Monday, keep the hourly uptrend, and we're looking at resistance of 387. 4 psychological would come after that. So hourly uptrend, and that's where we stand on most names where we're watching, at least in the US sector as well, we're watching hourly uptrends on Monday. Can those hourly uptrends hold? And do we see follow through first thing Monday? Or do we lose the hourly uptrends and lead to consolidation to start this coming week? So for TGOD, we are just looking for that 4-hour trend change and confirmation. We have to see that follow through. Otherwise, we're going to be looking right back down towards limited support. So we'll see if we get that trend change and follow through this coming week. But again, this is a good example of known news getting priced in. OGI, weekly time frame. So a double bottom down at $4.98 and $5. So that's a very clear support level. It's still a weekly uptrend. And if you were a trend line drawer, which I am not really, but if I were to draw an uptrend line, that's where it would be, making sure no candles close below it. And we're bouncing off this support uptrend line. So it's keeping that higher low pattern. Again, this is one of those scenarios where the range that we have on OGI is huge from the high to the low. And our recent pullback, holding down shift and clicking and dragging, we can see we pulled back 42%. So this is another scenario where if you watched the major Canadian MJ video that I did this weekend, I was highlighting that we could very easily trade within this weekly range for a long time. And it's the same thing with the S&P 500. It has a huge weekly range from its all-time high to the low of the current pullback. So we could trade within this range for months in a row now in a consolidating, tightening range, and we have to be prepared for that. And again, I do believe there's going to be better opportunities elsewhere for names that are not locked into this wide range over the past few weeks, but we still need to see follow through for the bulls. To get to the midway point of this dump, we need to see the bulls get back to about the upper $6 range. So we certainly still need follow through at this point. The daily chart still has not broken the lower highs. Some individual names have, but look at this wall of resistance right at 6 psychological. We essentially have a double bottom at 5 and a double top or triple top at 6. So if we look at the 4-hour time frame in our range, it's a clear channel. And we are looking at, can the bulls break $6 and 602 first thing on Monday and get a clear bull break with some nice space to the upside? Or do we have to pull back and form a higher low first? This is a good setup for the OGI bulls because, again, if we do break 602, 612, there is a lack of resistance. The next clear level is up at around 750. So we do need the bull volume to show up. You can see the bull volume has been lacking on the 4-hour time frame. We had multiple significant bull volume candlesticks defending support. Now we need some significant bull volume breaking resistance and getting that follow through. So a nice setup in the sense that if we break 6 and 602, we can look for a short-term bull move and a bull trade off of that. Or if we fade back down, potentially a bottom fishing play looking for 498 support to hold. But obviously we're much closer to a resistance test than a support test. And I do expect to test that early on Monday. So if we break those $6 levels, that will further follow through with the bounce. And we'll be just looking for a weekly lower high to be set and an equilibrium in this current setup. RIV. So RIV, we're looking at the potential of it getting some U.S. investment with its capital, but at this point, it is still very heavily Canadian MJ. So that's what we're going to classify it as at this point. And we are looking at a lack of support here as well. We look at the daily chart, and when we began trading, essentially this is all-time lows this week, where we dropped down to 375. At this point on a name like this, I need to see a trend change on the daily time frame before I get interested. Otherwise, it's just short-term bounces, cooling off RSI levels, and not doing anything to change the trend. And there's so many other plays that are set up so much better that I personally would not be wasting my time as a bull on a name that's not in a bullish uptrend. So here on the 4-hour time frame, we've got resistance at 455, 472, and 490. And it's lower highs and lower lows. And you can see it's a fairly similar setup to OGI on the 4-hour. The difference is OGI held support and it's right up at resistance, whereas RIV broke support to a lower low and it's a lower high, lower low pattern rather than a sideways channel with bulls defending support. So we're looking down at 409 for psychological and 375 as the couple support levels that we're going to be watching. And this is one of those setups that's similar to some of the major Canadian MJ names, where it could be an inverse head and shoulders pattern with the left shoulder, the head, and this consolidation to try and form a higher low would be the right shoulder. And then we would need a bull break to get over these lower highs to change that trend. So that's worth watching, but have to change that trend before I'm interested in RIV. And the weekly chart, we would certainly look for a lower high compared to 633, which would be pretty much a 50% move. Anything under that is a clear lower high on the weekly chart. HEXO, also a weekly inside bar holding support. Again, the range here is very significant that we're trading within, and it could be We could be trading within this range for a while, 46, 47%. News, in my opinion, and acquisitions and investment deals are going to be the only way that we break this range sometime before the next couple of months, in my opinion. So the daily chart is starting to shift momentum. We have the low and the high of the bounce on that low. And now we have a higher low, and we have to see a break of this resistance, which we did break 632 on Friday, but we want to see a little bit more convincing follow through. But if we zoom into the 4-hour chart, we can see very similar to OGI, there's a lack of resistance over this level. So if the bulls can show up Monday first thing and break 637, we're looking up at 7 psychological after that. As far as supports go, we look at the hourly uptrend. The bulls want to maintain this hourly uptrend. 615, 613, and 599 are the hourly support levels. And if we do not break resistance Monday first thing on any individual name and we start to take out the hourly higher lows, that's a red flag that consolidation is coming to start the week. So key resistance test first thing, all about 637, and the bulls would like to see a decent volume start to the morning by getting over that level to follow through with this bounce. TRST, weekly time frame here. So less convincing that the bottom is found. HEXO and OGI both have bullish reversal candlesticks or supports on their weekly time frame. We don't have that yet on TRST. Again, another name with a huge range from the high to the low, 47%. Could easily trade within that for a long time, but the bulls definitely need a lot of follow through. This is a weak bounce attempt. There's no bull volume behind it. The bear volume on the dump down is outweighing it. We're not getting back to the high of Monday like a lot of individual names are. Resistance right now is 942 and then 10 psychological. Have to change this daily momentum, and if we look at the 4-hour chart, we can see it's very clearly lower highs and lower lows, not like OGI and HEXO, which are more of a sideways channel. So at this point, the most important short-term support is 886. If we break that level, we're looking back down at 810. And again, bulls have to break 942 first thing Monday to have us looking up at 10 psychological resistance. And just comparing it to other names at this point, this is one of the weaker daily bounces in the Canadian MJ sector that we've looked at. ALEF. So ALEF on the weekly. So another one with support established, weekly inside bar. This is the range that I'd be watching, 395 down to 171. Again, huge pullback percentage-wise from the high to the low, 54%. So also a solid bounce, though. We have our higher low, and we're breaking resistance, so we are shifting that daily momentum. Next resistance is 3 psychological and then 311, and the hourly uptrend for the bulls to maintain. You can see we had a really strong end of the day on Friday. That bull volume absolutely stands out. Very strong end of the day. So we're looking at support down at 232, and you would want to check if there's a fundamental reason behind that big spike. Also, we have earnings approaching for MJ in the Canadian sector in November. So definitely pay attention to those dates. If you're swing trading any names, have a piece of paper next to your computer and write down when their earning dates are, because obviously that's very important. So ALEF will need an hourly higher low compared to 232. Resistance is 273 and $3, and we'll see if the bulls can keep up this momentum from the end of Friday into the start of Monday. So LHSIF, I can only get the OTC ticker here, and the CSE TradingView needs to start having the CSE exchange. But we have another one with support established, double bottom down at 7.9, and a solid bounce. So this is looking a lot more like an equilibrium because of the size of the bounce. We're already back to the middle of the range, and a tightening weekly range is absolutely worth watching here. So the daily time frame, very solid bounce after the double bottom. We broke the high of the initial bounce. So we hit the low, high of the bounce, double bottom, bull break. And now we're looking up at resistance. If the bulls can break 108 first thing, 112 and 118 are the next resistance levels. Hourly uptrend that the bulls need to maintain to keep full control. Support is at 103 and down to 101, a couple support levels. Same thing. If we break the high of Friday, first thing Monday, we'll look for some follow through. If we break the hourly uptrend, consolidation is coming. So just ranking these names on the weekly time frame. Anybody that this past week formed a higher low compared to the week before is instantly a bit stronger than names that did not. And that's just because we have more support, we have a stronger bounce to be working with. And even though T-God had a huge day on Friday and a potential volume climax and bullish reversal candlestick, it is coming off the low. So it's not in the most bullish category. OGI is, RIV is not. LHSIF is probably the strongest because of the size of the recovery that we've seen. 25% recovery off the low. So it's fit in its equilibrium the most. So you can see the midpoint of the equilibrium after the huge pullback. But OGI, if OGI were going to be comparable, let's just do a little bit of math here real quick. So pullback, we pulled back less, about a 37% pullback. And then the bounce that we saw was about a 35% bounce, very significant. So if OGI were going to see that same kind of bounce, we would be trading currently at about 650 or so. So we would be higher and more close to the middle of this equilibrium. So that's why LHSIF is in a better position on the weekly time frame. But OGI, definitely one of the stronger names. HEXO is as well. TRST is not. ALEF is. And that's how I would distinguish them. These four with a weekly support, bounce underway, and these three without a weekly support, still the bounce is underway, but not as developed of a bounce as these other four. That's where we stand coming into this week. We got midterm elections. We got some U.S. votes. We're watching the governor vote in Florida. We're watching 2 states for recreational, 2 states for medical, and we will keep on tap what's going on in this sector, which again, over the last couple of weeks, it's now gotten a lot more overwhelming to try and keep track of everything that's going on in the MJ sector, because now we have the US picking up, and obviously we're going to always be watching these Canadian names. So having the more eyes on the market, having a trading group that you can be working with, whether it's a Facebook group, a Reddit group, anybody, just have more eyes on the market and be, surfing those resources where people compile information so we can be keeping an eye on things, and most importantly, establish your game plan, write down things to get out of your brain and be more accountable to your game plan and make that money.